Okay, so I just watched Total Recall, the 1990 version with Arnold Schwarzenegger and Paul Verhoeven. I love Paul Verhoeven. He's done some great science fiction movies. Um, Above all, of course, RoboCop. And you have a lot of actors from RoboCop returning in Total Recall, and of course, Starship Troopers. So anyway, I love all of Paul Verhoeven's movies, especially his science fiction movies, because there's always so much detail in it, and you can. I, I think I must have watched those three movies I just mentioned. I must have watched them like, I don't know, 20 times or something. You can always rewatch them, and you find little details that you didn't notice before, and it's so great. And there's so many nuances, and it's just so deep, and there's so many things mentioned there. And of course, Total Recall is the same. Like I said, I'm talking about the 1990 movie, not the remake. The remake, oh my god. I don't even know why they make remakes. You have a perfectly great movie, and then they make a terrible remake. And the only reason they make the remake is just to make money. You already have a masterpiece. That's why they make remakes of masterpieces. They know that it already is a masterpiece. They can't make it better. So that's not what they're trying to do. With those remakes nowadays, they're not trying to improve on the original. They're just trying to cash in on the original. That's the only motivation nowadays. It's just to make money, which is terrible. And actually, Paul Verhoeven is great at satirizing that. He always loves to satirize big corporations and stuff. But anyway, when it comes to Total Recall, there's that endless debate about, is it all a dream or isn't it? And I love that aspect of it. uh you know because that's kind of what I keep asking myself every time I wake up in the morning. Is it like, have I really woken up, or am I still dreaming? And sometimes it seems to me, that some of the stuff I dream actually seems more real than when I wake up. I guess a lot of people have that feeling, and maybe that's also kind of what inspired this story. So, but is it a dream or is it real? And the answer is kind of both. Now you probably say, well, how can it be both at the same time? If those two versions contradict each other. Well, it's kind of a paradox, and it's kind of like Schrödinger's cat. I don't know if you're familiar with Schrödinger's cat. It basically goes like that. You take a cat, put it in a box, and inside that box you put some form of poison that has a 50% chance of killing the cat and a 50% chance of not killing the cat. Of course, don't actually do that. It's a bad idea. It's just an example. But the point is that until you open the box and look at the cat, you don't know if the cat is dead or alive. And that's kind of how it is with the movie. The movie does not show the box being opened. At the moment the box, so to say, is being opened, that's when the movie ends. We don't see what happens. We don't. Right at the moment when he would be waking up, if it is a dream, that's the exact moment the movie ends. So the movie intentionally doesn't show us the opening of the box, so to say. So since the box has not been opened, since it has not been shown that he wakes up or that he doesn't wake up, we don't know. And kind of like the cat, kind of like Schrödinger's cat, the movie exists in a kind of super state where both realities, where both versions of looking at it are equally valid. And even though they are contradictory, we don't know which one is true because the box has not been opened. It's the same with the cat. Of course it's contradictory. The cat cannot be dead and undead at the same time. That just doesn't work. But the point is that until the box has been opened, we don't know. So I hope that maybe helps a little in understanding the movie better. And that's actually exactly after watching some interviews with Paul Verhoeven, I realized that was exactly his intention. He intended it to be that way. He intended it to not be conclusive. He intended it for both realities, even though they are contradicting each other, to exist at the same time. So he knew exactly what he was doing, and he was intentionally doing it that way. It's kind of similar to the Alfred Hitchcock movie The Birds in that respect. Only in that respect. Of course, it's not similar to The Birds. But it's similar in that respect because I've also watched interviews with Alfred Hitchcock, and he said in the interviews that he basically intentionally didn't give a definitive answer as to what causes the birds to behave that way. In the movie there were there were various explanations given as to why the birds behave that way, and all of them are equally valid. And the viewer can himself decide which version is true for him. That's what he said in interviews, and that's also what Paul Verhoeven basically said in interviews. Well, of course, I'm thinking, well, yeah, but he must still have, as the director, he must still have a preference himself, And then I watched The Birds again, and I paid real close attention, and I realized, well, yes, he does. There are, if you really dissect it and really look into each scene and how each scene is shot, and also maybe compare it to his other works, know how the director works and stuff, you realize then, yes, Alfred Hitchcock does have a favorite explanation, and it becomes pretty apparent if you really pay attention in the movie. And for The Birds is, well, I don't know if I should spoil it. I'll make a separate video for The Birds. But anyway, it's the same with Paul Verhoeven and Total Recall, and I think he also has a, of course, his point was, that two realities that are conflicting can still exist at the same time. That was kind of the point, and it's up to the viewer to decide. It's only if you see it, once you've seen it, that it becomes reality. So there is no objective reality. Well, of course there is, but since everything we see is not objective, but is only from our point of view, there is only the reality that we see, including the reality that we see as the audience. So basically, we, the audience, pick what we want to be the reality. And that's also kind of what we do in real life. That's why that's why you have so many scam artists, because why do people still fall for scammers, even though they know that, they don't know, but it should be pretty obvious with a lot of the scams nowadays. It should be pretty obvious that there are scams, and everyone kind of knows it, yet there are still people falling for the same old scams that already have been exposed. Why do they keep falling for scams that are more than like 200 years old? Well, it's simple. It's because they want it to be true. If you get a letter telling you that you've won $100 billion, or that some Nigerian prince is giving you all his money. Uh, you of course know that it's not true, but you want it to be true, and because you want it to be true, it becomes true to you. Until, of course, in the end, you lift the box and realize that you have actually been scammed out of a lot of money. But until you lift that box, it is your reality. Um, so yes, I think that that's the kind of point he was trying to make. And actually, I'm working on a similar story, um, because that's also always what I try to emphasize when I write stories. And right now I'm writing on a story for a visual novel that's kind of similar. And maybe I was inspired by Total Recall, but not intentionally. It was more like subconsciously, maybe because I've watched it so much, I kind of subconsciously worked in that concept. Yeah, which is also a theme of the movie. Subconscious messages, and messages being implanted, and of course it also, because it's a movie, it can't actually directly implant ideas into our mind, but it also plays with the themes of subconscious advertisement, subliminal messages. There's also a lot of that going on. Yeah, so I think that kind of wraps it up. But so as to answer the question, but everyone still has, like I said, everyone still has a reality that's true for him. So what reality, even though that was kind of the point Verhoeven was trying to make, still what reality is true for him. And if you watch the movie really close, well, it kind of becomes apparent, at least for me. And of course, this is again a subconscious interpretation. No, a subjective interpretation, but the way I understand it, well, I think most people, including Paul Verhoeven, kind of tend to favor the dream, the dream reality. Even though his point was that both realities exist at the same time, I think he kind of favors the dream reality, and that kind of becomes apparent if you pay really close attention. He intentionally puts in a lot of hints for that make both realities valid. There is a lot of little details that confirm either reality. But there are some. I think all in all, the hints at it being a dream are more convincing. Well, this has been talked about, and you probably noticed it yourself, and that is the way the story turns out is exactly the way the memories are described at Recall. When he books his memory trip, so to say, the way it's being described is exactly what ends up happening. And he does pay to be a secret agent. That's his dream fantasy. He buys the secret agent fantasy, and that's exactly his package. If you pay close attention, you notice that his package is actually called Blue Skies on Mars. And at the end of the story, well, yeah, that's what happens. The skies of Mars turn blue. And a lot of details are explained by Recall, as part of the package. Part of the package is that he's a secret agent. Part of the package is that he buys that. Well, not only is he a secret agent, but he pays money to actually have that alter ego. to actually be that secret agent, to be that person. He pays money um, to have that girl, the girl of his dreams. That's he even describes her down to all the details that how he wants the girl to be, and that's exactly how she ends up being. Um, and it's even foretold by the people from Recall that he will end up killing the bad guy, saving the planet. That's all part of the fantasy, and that's all what ends up happening. And even the part with Hauser, if you pay close attention, that's actually also being foretold by the owner of Recall. That he ends up being best buddies with the bad guy, and that's kind of the twist they build in, and that he's really Hauser, and that's what he wanted to be. He wanted to have that alter ego, and all those little things are are foretold as being part of the package. So now, of course, you might say, well, that's they're just telling him all that to confuse him and to make him take the rat pill, so that so that he falls asleep and then they can capture him. Well, yeah, but isn't that the plan? I mean, the plan is for the bad guy from RoboCop. I forgot what his name was in this movie. Anyway, the bad guy conspires with Hauser, and oh yeah, and he sends him under deep cover. That was also described in the package at Recall, that he goes under deep cover. So anyway, he's under such deep cover that even he doesn't know that he's really his cover identity. But anyway, the plan, of course, is that they want to use him to infiltrate the mutants, and since the mutants can know what you think, you yourself have to be convinced that you're telling the truth, and that's why he himself that's why he kind of has to deceive himself. Okay, but the guy from Recall tells him all that. Now, why would he do that? Why would he tell him all that? If he knows all that, and if he believes that that's the plan, then the plan doesn't work. The plan is for him to not believe that, so that he can infiltrate the mutants. But if the guy from Recall is really in cahoots with the bad guys, why would he tell him that? If he tells him that, the plan of the bad guys does not work. So that's why I say that it's kind of that it kind of makes more sense that, well, yeah, the dream reality makes more sense. So yeah, it was all a dream. But the point is, a long time ago I watched that video from the Fine Brothers, and originally they got famous by spoiling all kinds of movies, including Total Recall. And and they just spoiled it, just by saying, oh yeah, well, it's all a dream. And then, once you heard that, and you kind of think, well, that's lame. It's all a dream. That's lame. Been done a million times. But yeah, well, with Total Recall, it's not lame. Yeah, even though basically, yes, it is all a dream. The way it's done, and the messages that the movie conveys besides it's being all a dream. I mean, that's not the only message the movie is trying to convey. The main message is really about the perception of reality and how two conflicting realities can exist at the same time. So just describing it as it's lame, it's all a dream, that really doesn't do it justice. I mean, someone who's describing it like that obviously has not understood the movie, because it's that it's so much more than it's just all a dream. you know but maybe even our reality is all just a dream, but even then, it's not just, you wouldn't describe it. If you look back on if you look back on your life, I think a lot of old people actually have that feeling. Just before they die, they look back on their life, or maybe their life passes them by, and they see it like in a dream sequence, and maybe they really do get the feeling that, oh yeah, their life was all a dream. But even though they might see it that way, it's not like, oh, what a lame dream. It's more than that. Yeah. So that's kind of what I got out of the movie. And even though reality can be very much subjective and can be in the eye of the beholder, we should still cherish it, of course.